Okay, grade 12. So I didn't get as far as I thought I would today because I'd forgotten that I had to still upload that very big video, but that's okay. I will chat to Mrs. Page this weekend because then we're going to decide how we're going to teach you. We're going to be doing it joint, or we'll decide who will do what on Monday when we get our new timetable. All right, so we're still talking about evidence of evolution. So we just looked at embryological similarities. So now my favorite is what we call vestigial organs. So I'm going to stand by my computer now so that I can move through the slides and you can hear me. All right. Okay, it's just some noise from outside. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So this is also evidence for evolution. Now, vestigial organs, it means that some organisms have very small remnants of structures that are still present, all right, but they no longer serve a purpose. And I have mentioned this the other day. So they are called vestigial organs. So think about the fact that we have an appendix. We mentioned this. So we've got this little appendix at the beginning of our large intestine. It's vestigial. It no longer serves a huge function, although they do think it stores good bacteria. But in herbivores, it's another, they've got a 4-chambered stomach, and there's one called the cecum. Cecum, it's spelled like, you don't need to remember this kind of thing. Cecum, I think I've spelled it right. It's C-A-E-C-U-M, and we've still got a remnant of it. Why? We don't need it. Well, because the common ancestor, whatever, they had whatever digestive system, which allowed them to eat tougher plant material, and then over time, as organisms evolved, and even humans and hominids, we no longer need, it's not that we no longer needed the organ, it's just that if there was a mutation that caused that organ to become smaller, it didn't really matter that hominids still survived because they weren't just eating grass and tough material like bark and stuff. They were now eating softer food, fruits and fruits and things that they hunter-gathered, what they gathered, and also they started cooking fire. So if they had random mutations that allowed that caused a change in that large organ to be small, it didn't matter. All right, so you can't say that the appendix became small because they were no longer eating tough plant material. No. That over time, if there were random mutations that made that structure smaller, which we now call the appendix, it didn't matter because the diet had changed and they were still able to digest their food. And for whatever reason, humans today, we don't have a cecum. We've got that small little appendix, a remnant of the cecum. Okay, so herbivores like cows and that still have the large cecum, and so do antelope and other, herbivores, but humans not, all right? So humans don't have it. I'm sure reptiles don't have it either. So it's a remnant of what once was a much larger structure. So it's a part of it is still there. So that shows that we must be related and there must be some kind of common ancestor. If we've got remnants of it, it's still there. So there's lots of examples of vestigial organs, and that's one of them. All right. They often are homologous to organs that have a function in other animals. Okay. That suggests that we share a common ancestor, but is no longer functional in us. Okay, so the appendix is the one, right? It assists with digestion of plant material in herbivores, us know. The other one is the coccyx. So you saw in the picture of embryos that all embryos have long tails, and then that becomes like the long tail of a lizard or the long tail of a monkey, but then in gorillas and humans, the primates, it gets absorbed, and then we don't have a tail, but inside at the bottom end of the vertebral column, we discussed this the other day, there's the remnants of a tail. And some humans are born with a little tail, and sometimes it doesn't have bone in it or spinal cord. It's just like a flap of skin, almost like the organ wasn't absorbed properly. So we've got vestigial tail. Remnants of it are still there. And, in animals that have a tail, think of monkeys and that, it's another limb. It's prehensile. It allows them to swing from branches. And in leopards and that, it allows them to balance when they run so fast and to steer. Okay, so we don't need it anymore, but we've got remnants of it showing that that there must be some kind of common ancestor that gave rise to primates and other organisms that have a tail. And primates, gorillas and chimps and us don't have it anymore. All right, so it's non-essential in us, but it's essential in other primates, so monkeys with tails, but not in gorillas and chimps, is what I should rather say. All right, dolphins. So if you look in, and there's a picture just now. So dolphins, we've got the pectoral girdle, remember your upper limbs, grade 10 skeleton. We've got a pelvic girdle where our limbs are attached, but other organisms have a remnant of that. So it's also a vestigial organ. Okay, so if we look here, the anatomy of a dolphin, they've got a very well-developed pectoral girdle because they've got that limb to help them to steer. So my one PowerPoint has got it's a picture of a whale. But there's remnants of the pelvic girdle, the back girdle for the hind limbs, because they don't have, like bony fish, like goldfish, they don't have another fin or flipper here. They've only got the two at the front. So the hind limbs have disappeared, and now there's a vestigial organ there. Okay, it's just my phone, shame. People at home trying to get hold of me. All right, so that's a vestigial organ in the cetaceans. Cetaceans are the dolphins and the whales. Don't worry, you don't need to know that. Okay, so now we've looked at vestigial organs as evidence for evolution, denoting common ancestry. So now we've mentioned this as well. Intermediate species, finding fossils that allow us to see how these organisms are related and grouped, with one another in a phylogenetic tree, in clades. There's a clade, here's a bigger one, inclusive, okay? So that's the last bit of evidence for evolution. So intermediate species or transitional species. And quite a few missing links have been found since the time of Darwin. All right, and that gave quite a bit of information about how these phylogenetic trees can be drawn up. All right, and so so these missing links, none of them were available when he was around, and that's what it's almost like that's what he needed to make people believe, to understand the theory that he was putting forward. Right? That evolution of organisms from common ancestors. We need to find more of the missing links to see how things are organized. And that's what he needed. That's the kind of information he needed to make people understand what he was saying. Now, this is one. It's called the Tiktaalik fishapod. So that's what if Darwin said organisms that lived in water evolved and into new species that moved onto land, people would look at him and say, are you crazy? So he was, if we only could find a fossil of an organism that is transitional between the two, and voila, Tiktaalik, the fishapod. And it was discovered in Canada, 2004, 375 million years old. It had gills like a fish, it had scales like a fish, but the fins almost looked like little legs, and they could actually stand up. So they've got limb-like fins, they've even got ribs. All right, because that's got to support, the organs inside when you're on land, because you're not being supported by water. And what's really odd is they've got that flat head like a croc, so they can see above the water and then, on land. All right, and a flexible neck. They can move their necks, which obviously fish can't do. Okay, unless you Nemo or something like that. All right, so that's Tiktaalik. So he speculated that there must be something out there that's a transition between fish that gave rise to amphibians that moved onto land. All right, and I'm not familiar with Acanthostega, but Tiktaalik, yes, and because we found them, or because they have been found, that's now evidence for evolution, missing links or intermediary species between fish-like organisms and, say, amphibians that moved onto land. And they lived in shallow water, and they spent some time on land. Tetrapods means that they could walk on land. Okay, transitional between shallow water fish and limbed animals that moved onto land. So that's where they were found, the site of the fossils, and there's the actual fossils, and the bones, the elbow and the wrist, allowing them to have those flatter fin, limb-like fins that allow them to walk onto land, similar to more recent land-dwelling organisms. All right, so paleontologists already, before they found Tiktaalik, they already said, this is what we think it will look like. All right? They already worked out more or less when they thought it would have existed, and then they found a fossil. So that was a big party time. All right? And it was found in sedimentary rock in Canada. And yeah, so that was a huge discovery. Okay. Let's just see here. So there's another fossil, and this is Acanthus stiga. It's also one that's got limb-like fins, similar to Tiktaalik, and it's primitive as well. All right, so yeah, you get little cartoons like this. Okay. So Archaeopteryx, that picture that was it near the beginning of the PowerPoint. So yes, they will say, okay, now we've got birds. Let's try and do it on here again. So birds and reptiles. And based on what they knew that birds and reptiles, they have, birds have got scales on their legs. Reptiles have scales. In fact, scales are modified epidermis, and feathers are modified scales. So they needed to find this transitional fossil, and when they did, it was like, voila! It then linked birds and reptiles together because they found Archaeopteryx. And I used to think it was huge, and it's like this big, and the fossil was found in Germany. It's the first bird that didn't actually fly, but remember I said it had these claws that helped it to hang on to things. But it had these feathers that they think was mainly for insulation, not for flying. They haven't developed flight yet. All right, and feathers on the forelimbs and on the tail, and the long lizard-like tail. So they were very excited when that transitional fossil was found. I mean, why is it around? Okay, it shows, adaptive radiation, adapting and mutations that allow these organisms to be different and to adapt to the environment that they're in, and then speciation occurs and other organisms emerge and others become extinct. That's the story of evolution. All right, so, so the earliest known flying bird, all right? Well, yeah. So it's between pigeon and dinosaur, but I've read that Archaeopteryx didn't fly, or maybe it was a very bad flyer, but I've read that it didn't fly. So there are features that are similar between dinosaurs and birds, okay? And it shared features with meat-eating dinosaurs. Its wrists were similar. The snout, it had teeth in its beak. The tail, the pelvis, because dinosaurs would have strong pelvises to hold their body weight. The feathers, etc. All right. So this next part, evolution and Charles Darwin, I'm going to stop here now, and there's a lovely video about why Darwin and his discoveries, what he learned when he was 20 and on that ship called the Beagle, sailing around the world. He acted as the medical doctor for the sailors on the ship and gathered evidence about what he saw and why is there so much diversity and why were the finches on the islands off the coast of Ecuador similar but different to the ones on the mainland. Okay, so let me stop this one now.